This is all about Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation. All Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lake. All right, let's have a live look at Bitcoin right now. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XVX index currently trading at $43,485. Bitcoin is sliding back almost 9% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
Concerned about today's volatility? Well, hold on just a second. Post data shows September dips paved the way for larger bull runs, particularly those seen after a halving year. Bitcoin underwent its third mining reward halving in May of last year. The first and the second halvings took place in 2012 and 2016, and as you see from this chart, they are followed by secular bull runs. Nevertheless, Bitcoin sellers are dominating the Bitcoin market today amid a global equity sell-off. Delta Exchange CEO Pankaj Bilani saying investors looking to be taking risk off the table on fears that crisis at China's Evergrande group may become a systemic problem to global markets. Meanwhile, a two-day Fed meeting, which concludes on Wednesday, will be keenly watched by investors for clarity on the central bank's plans to scale back or taper the liquidity-boosting stimulus program. Aside from macro factors, impending regulatory action on stablecoins could also be adding to selling pressure around Bitcoin. The New York Times reporting Sunday that U.S. regulators are concerned that stablecoins pose a risk to the stability of financial markets. While Washington's discomfort with stablecoins is not new, the fact that mainstream media is honing in suggests regulation is coming soon. These issues, coupled with quarterly Bitcoin options expiring due this Friday, may keep Bitcoin volatile this week, Delta Exchange's CEO saying. However, the underlying trend will remain bullish while Bitcoin holds above $40,000. Joining us now to discuss is Bobby Zagata, CEO of Bitstamp US. Welcome to the show, Bobby. So we certainly see that it is a risk-off market right now, a sea of red across global equities as well as the crypto markets, and that's having an impact on Bitcoin.
Yes, thanks for having me, Christina. No question that this recent news out of China, combined with the Fed meeting and other kind of uncertainty in the marketplace, is matriculating through into the crypto market.
Do you see this as purely short-term, or are there some systemic risks with what is happening in China, regulation, central banks?
I think it is short-term. I think a lot of the volatility we're experiencing now is expected, but the macro trend you described a moment ago is going to hold on for the next several quarters. So we still have a lot of runway ahead of us in terms of price expansion and elevation over the next couple of quarters anyway.
Nevertheless, often some investors describe Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation, against regular market moves. But do you see that Bitcoin is actually very much tied to the markets?
Well, I think it is a valid hedge against inflation, because when you think about absolute monetary policy and the fact that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies don't have a lot of the same constraints and basically factors or levers attached to them. So that's critically important. I do think that in kind of macro global economic trends, such as a sell-off on the equities markets, that type of uncertainty does matriculate, as I say, through crypto, but I wouldn't go so far to say that the crypto markets and the equity markets are correlated.
Okay. What are your thoughts on stable coins? Because as we see this trouble grow in Evergrande, there have been questions around whether some stable coins have Chinese commercial paper backing them, namely Tether, which is the largest stable coin in the crypto market and the foundation and bridge between the traditional financial markets, government dollars, and the crypto markets. And so is there any, and while Tether has said they do own Chinese commercial paper, it is not in Evergrande. Is there any concern about what is backing these stable coins and how they could shake up the crypto market?
Yes, firstly, let me say that stablecoins play an incredibly important role in the crypto ecosystem, and they create, a lot of efficiencies for many, many types of, crypto participants, from large institutions to, individual retail investors. So it's really an important kind of cog in the ecosystem to keep things and the ability to move value around, in a semi-frictionless manner. Having said that, I'm not surprised that there's some real questions about the backing of these stable coins, Tether in particular, and hopefully the answers that that the parent can put forth will be adequate for regulators and for customers.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of regulators, in the United States, a lot of regulators like the SEC have been honing in on the crypto markets, so looking at DeFi, saying no to yield products. And so I wonder, as the U.S. regulators and Congress look at the crypto industry and look to create rules and figure out how to make it fit within U.S. laws and regulations, how do you see that panning out?
Firstly, I must say that, at Bitstamp, we're playing the long game here, and we're interested in, continuing global adoption of this really, really important technology and opportunity for people to manage their value in a kind of a, individual, empowered, sovereign way. But in order for that to happen, it requires good regulation, and it requires full engagement on the part of regulators. So we at Bitstamp are fully supportive of additional investment and additional time and effort spent by regulators to get it right. We also are proactively engaging to the extent possible to help them shape the regulation and shape their thinking, frankly, in terms of how to do it in a way that's supportive of consumer protection, but also supportive of, this important technology in the world.
Do you have examples in particular of how you would see that vision coming about?
Well, I think, like I said, what I am seeing and I'm encouraged by is it's regulators who are engaging differently today than they did 2 or 3 years ago. And 2 or 3 years ago, it was either more of a denial kind of mindset and or a lack of substantive engagement with the industry. What I'm seeing now is more proactive engagement with the industry and openness to conversation and education, frankly. I'm also seeing regulators such as the New York Department of Financial Services and the SEC hiring people from the industry with real crypto or Bitcoin knowledge, so that they can build on that foundation of knowledge versus trial and error off of potentially bad assumptions. I don't have specific examples about actual regulation, but I'm a bit encouraged as to what's possible.
All right, we'll leave it there. Bobby, thanks for joining us. That was Bitstamp US CEO Bobby Zagoda. Coming up, honing in on the state of Bitcoin adoption in El Salvador with local nonprofit group Bitcoin Nation.
CoinDesk indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, XBX, has been instrumental to Grayscale, enabling investors around the world to access Bitcoin through a regulated, familiar product.
CoinDesk indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
All right, looking at some of our top stories. Bitcoin falling as U.S. stocks take a lashing. The Dow Jones, S&P 500, and NASDAQ down over 2% amid a global equities pullback. Concern over China and caution ahead of this week's Federal Reserve meeting are weighing down on stocks, while speculation that the U.S. government may declare stablecoins a risk to the financial system could be adding to uncertainty in the crypto market. Meanwhile, a slew of Coinbase news. The crypto exchange is bailing on plans to launch a crypto lending program amid a backlash against yield products by U.S. regulators. Nevertheless, Coinbase is signing a $455,000 contract to provide analytics software to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Immigration and Customs Enforcement branch. Coinbase is also launching Prime, a crypto brokerage that serves institutional investors. And crypto exchange FTX is expanding into the Bahamas with a Nassau-headquartered subsidiary registered by the Securities Commission of the Bahamas as a digital assets business. FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried saying the move shows they're further committed to providing clients with a, quote, safe, trustworthy, and compliant exchange. Finally, who is buying the dip in Bitcoin? El Salvador, apparently. El Salvador President Nayib Bukele tweeting, "We just bought the dip, 150 new coins. El Salvador now holds 700 coins, #Bitcoin." This after demonstrators have been marching against El Salvador's adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender against President Nayib Bukele and have set fire to a Bitcoin ATM. Joining us now to discuss is Adriana Rodriguez, co-founder of Bitcoin education group Bitcoin Nation in El Salvador. Welcome to the show, Adriana. Great to have you on. So we see that Bitcoin's price has been plunging, and I wonder what effect has that been happening on Bitcoin adoption as legal tender in El Salvador?
Well, that's a good question. But first of all, it didn't plunge. Like everyone knows it is a volatile market, especially when it's still a very new system that is actually evolving exponentially, right? So, but if you look at the historical data, Bitcoin is thriving, not plunging, right? So, and the adoption is coming along slowly but surely. Everyone in the country understands that there will be growing pains, especially when you are implementing an actually innovating system, that improves upon the financial stability or lack thereof of El Salvador. Right. So, yeah.
So someone like a merchant who is using Bitcoin for payments, though, just to accept payments for everyday items like milk, like bread, and they see the price of Bitcoin become very volatile. I mean, does that hard to do commerce?
No, the government has created, I don't know if I imagine the whole world is aware, wallet that's called Chivo wallet, right? So this is backed up by the government bank. The government has created a trust fund to back this up, right? So people can start using Bitcoin, receiving Bitcoin, and if they want, they can keep it in Bitcoin or they can receive it in dollar, right? Directly in the same app. So this is why, like, the reason why this has been done is like to teach the people, like little by little, like the importance about crypto, because I know there's a lot of sellers out there, but